Hi there, analysts. Welcome to week 4 of our internship project-based class. Before we go into the business case and the problem we'll be solving this week, let us install and set up the tool we'll be using to solve the problem. And the tool we'll be using is SQL. We'll be using Postgresql. Okay, so to install Postgresql locally on your computer, you will visit this enterprisedb.com website. The link is available in this class description. So we will be downloading the most recent version, right? So you will download based on your operating system. I'm using Windows, so I'll just go ahead and click this icon to begin the download. So our download is complete. So we'll just double click on the file to begin the installation process. All right, so let's click next. And this is setting up the installation directory. So this will be the directory, okay? So click next. So we'll need to install the PostgreSQL server. So we need this checked. So we are going to be using the pgadmin 4 components and the command line tools. So I'm going to uncheck Start Builder. So we are just going to be using these 3 components. So let's go ahead and click on Next. So click on Next, and then you enter your password, okay? Your password will be for your database, okay? So let's go ahead and insert the password. Click on Next. So this port number is this by default. So just go ahead and click on Next. So this is prompting us to select the geographical location of the database server. You can see the different locations here. Okay, but I recommend you leave it at default. So you click on Next. So let's click on Next and Next to begin the installation process. All right, so we have successfully installed PostgreSQL on our computer. So let's click Finish so that we can begin using it. All right, so now that we have successfully installed PostgreSQL, the next phase is to interact with our database, right? And we are going to be using the pgadmin 4, right? It is the most friendly way to interact with the PostgreSQL database. All right, so remember when we were installing, we checked that we wanted to also install the pgadmin 4 package, right? So we are going to just search in our type in our search bar pgadmin 4. So you can see the application here. We'll click to open that application. So this is going to help us interact with the PostgreSQL database. Okay. Once PostgreSQL is completely loaded, you're going to see a window like this. Okay. So you double click on the server here to enter your Postgres password. Okay. So it connects you to the PostgreSQL. So we are going to insert the password we inserted while installing the application. Remember? Then click OK. Once you click OK, so this is the Postgres database. You can create your own database by right-clicking on the database here and click on Create, then click on Database. So you enter your database name. So we are going to call this database week 4DB. Okay, so you leave the owner here as Postgres. Okay, then you go ahead and click on Save. So now that we have created our database, the week 4DB, we will now go ahead to create our table. To create our table, we are going to use the SQL queries to create a table. To begin writing our query, we are going to click on the query tool here. So it opens up the environment where we are going to write our query and run our queries as well. So we will write our queries here, then we get the output here when we execute query. Okay, so we want to begin creating our table. But before we create our table, let us go over the business case. Our clients, a reputable bank, approached us and reported 25% year-over-year customer churn. So they want us to segment their clients so that they will be able to make informed decisions as to how to manage churn and prevent those who are premium customers from leaving. So now we are going to be segmenting their clients. We are going to be flagging high risk profiles. So we are going to do that using SQL here in Postgresql. Okay, so let's begin. In creating a table, we will use the create table and we'll say create table. All right, so we are going to use this function to create our table. Then our table name, right? Let's call our table name customer. Then we open parentheses, just hit enter so that we will just write it in a block that is understandable, okay? So now we need to begin to enter the column headers, right? Just like you have in a table, we need to begin to enter the column headers. But before we enter the column headers, I would like us to have these side by side and see the columns we have, because we will have to put these columns just as we have them in our CSV file. Because the goal of creating this table here now is to help us easily import CSV data, data in our CSV file into our table here in Postgresql. Okay, so let us open that file, our data file, and look at how it is presented. I used the window navigation key, that is the window and the navigation key, to put my windows like this so that you will see what I'm doing from both sides. Now, why I did this way is so that you can see that we have the customer column, right? The customer ID rather. We have his premium and so on. These are the column headers that we have. So it's important that we have the same column headers here, spelled the same way so that while importing, we won't have any issues. Apart from the column headers, we have to also take note of the data types, okay? Now you can see that customer ID here is a text data type, right? Okay, because the easiest way to basically know is that the texts are aligned to the left, numbers are aligned to the right. That is by default in Excel spreadsheet. Okay. And secondly, the customer ID have text within it. So it's only fitting to be text, right? Because we have CUST here before the numbers. Okay. So let's go ahead and insert the column names now. So we'll begin with customer ID, right? Okay. So we have customer ID as a column name. The data type now is very important. We are going to add the data type, which is text. So the text data type here will align with the text data type in our CSV file, okay? So we are going to make the customer ID the primary key. Then we go on to the next column. The next column is premium, right? So it's spelled is premium, and is premium, we have true or false. The true or false data type is a Boolean. So we are going to refer to that as bool, okay? So the true or false is Boolean. Boolean is spelled as Boolean, okay? Now say comma, let's go to another. So the following will be total revenue. Okay, and total revenue, as what we can see here, there are values, isn't it? So we are going to be using the numeric data type. Okay, so we'll say numeric. So the numeric data type is used for storing numbers that require exactness. So basically, it's used for scientific measurements, quantities, or when you are inputting or inserting monetary amounts. Okay. And after numeric, we need to tell the size of the values to store. Basically, we can say we want to store 12 digits and in 2 decimal places. Okay, that's what this means. It means we want it to have the size to accommodate 12 digits, and then the 2 here is for 2 decimal places. If you want more decimals, you are going to refer to that. So, but if you now look at total revenue, you are going to see the numbers you have. And so you have to basically have an understanding of this so that you don't put a size that will not contain each of these. Now, let's go to another column heading. Another column heading we have is churned. So churned, the data type is what we have true and false, or false, right? So that is a Boolean, okay? So basically, like to say yes or no, true or false, that is Boolean. So we are going to represent that with bool, right? So let's go to engagement. Let's expand this to see the actual title. So engagement score. An engagement score, from what we can see, we can use numeric as well. Okay. And let's give the size. So basically what we can see, if we say 5 digits, we won't be wrong. And we can see that we have 2 decimal places, right? 2 decimal places here. Okay, so let's just go ahead and make sure it accommodates that. Okay, so say comma. Then we have last active, right? Last active date, rather. So say last active date. That is a date column, right? So we are going to give it the date data type, comma. The next is monthly transactions. Monthly transactions. From what we can see, the data type for monthly transaction here are integers. Integers are whole numbers, right? So we can either present that as int, or we can just write them as full integers, okay? So let's say comma. Okay. The next is balance trend score, okay? So say balance trend score. And the balance trend score here is numeric. So we'll say numeric, and the size, let's use 5 digits and in 2 decimal places, comma. Then we have region. Region is text, okay, as you can see. Then the last but not the least, account type. Account type is also text. So say comma, account type, which is text. So that is all, right? We have now covered everything within our table. That we've covered all the column headers, okay? And we have fixed data type appropriately, okay? So let's expand this or maximize this, and let's take this away. So we close our query with semicolon, okay? What will happen when we run this query is that we are going to be inserting a blank table, okay? So let's just highlight this and then execute that. So it said query returned successfully. That is, we have successfully created our table, okay? You can see that in the message. All right. So what if we wanted to see how this table looks now? Okay, remember the table name is customers, right? So let's just now write a new query. We'll use the select statement. The select statement just gives us a peek, right, into what we have created. It's like we are asking to see a record, isn't it? Okay, so we'll say select, and we are going to use the asterisk to represent all. Okay, so I'll say from. Then remember our table name. Our table name is customer, okay? Or customers, right? Let's see, customers, yes. So make sure your table name is correct. If not, you are going to have an error. So let's close this query and then highlight and execute and see. Okay, so you can see our table and you see the data types as well, everything we did here initially. So you see the customer ID is a primary key, is set to text, is premium is Boolean, total revenue is numeric, churned is Boolean, engagement score is numeric, last active date, monthly transaction integer, and so on and so forth. So you can see that we have that now. Initially, when we were on tables here, we couldn't see any table, right? Because we had not added any table. But now it will be possible to see the table that we have added. So you can see when you expand this now, you can see that we have one table in our tables under week 4 DB database. And you can see the name of the table. The name of the table is customers. If you add your table and you can't find it under tables immediately, all you need to do is to right click on table and say refresh. Once you refresh, you are going to see your new table, okay? So now to the point where we will import our data in the CSV file into our table that we created, okay? So you right click on the table name, then you go to import or export data. We want to import data. So we will insert a file name here. The easiest way is just to click on this folder so that it takes us to where we have our file, okay? If you are not linked directly or directed directly there, you have to go to the exact place where you have your data stored or saved. So let's click on open. It's a CSV file, right? It's a CSV file. These are other files you can pick, but ours is a CSV file. So we'll leave it this way, okay? So let's go to options and we are going to check header, okay? With this done, we can now click OK. You can see that our process is successful. Let's go back to our query, then execute this again and see. Now you can see all our table, right? You can see everything that we have. Because we got the column names right, we got the data types right, everything that we had in our CSV file has been copied correctly. So we wrote our queries, then imported our table. Okay, you can see that is straightforward, isn't it? All right, now that we have done this successfully, we would like to just do a basic exploration. We have already done one part of a basic exploration, and this is just to take a sneak peek at our table. But you see that this gives us the entire table, right? Because they select all from customers. That is the entire data we have. And you can see that it can come in several pages, right? You see page number 1 of 1. And this is because we just have about 100 entries, right? So, but what if we wanted to add a limit? Let's say we just wanted to see 10, 5, or any number you want. So we can add the limits function to that and tell it that, okay, we want to limit it to 10, okay? So if we execute this, instead of 100 rows, we are going to have just about 10 rows because we just requested to see 10 rows. If you change it to 5, you are going to be seeing just 5 rows or extract of 5 rows from your entire table, basically the first 5 rows. Okay, so let's leave this at 10 and continue. So this is just a basic exploration. Let's label this as C structure. So I'm just entering a comment now. So we wanted to see the structure of our table with this. So let us count premium versus regular customers, okay? So this is just giving us a head start, basically a little bit of foundation on what we can do in SQL, okay? So let's enter this comment and say we want to count premium, that is our premium customers versus regular, okay? Let's write that query and see. So now, remember we have a column called is premium, right? See here, within is premium, we have true and false. That is to say that the true means the customer is a premium customer. The false means the customer is a regular customer, isn't it? Select. All right, we want to select just the is premium column. Previously, when we did this, we selected the entire columns in our table. So let us select just the is premium column, okay? We will count, we want to count everything within that column, okay? So we are going to count all asterisks here represent all. So, and we will now say from now is referencing our table, and it's important that we do reference our table because that is what shows SQL what we are referring to, the data within the table, okay? So say from customers, that is our table name is customers, isn't it? Okay. So we will now use the group by here to group our counts. So we'll group by, we'll say group by, okay, is premium. Okay. So we close this. So let us execute these and see what we get. We execute that. We now have our is premium column and our counts column, okay? So you see now that it will be easy for us to know which or how many customers are regular and how many customers are premium customers. From what we have here, we see that our premium customers are 15, while our regular customers are 85. So how did we know this? Remember, in the is premium column, we have booleans. Boolean that show that if they are premium customers, the response is true. If they are not, the response is false. So let's execute this to go back to the first 10 rows of our data set. I hope that is clear. So now let us determine the churn rates by premium status, okay? So say churn rates by premium status, okay? So while we are doing this, remember the goal of our project, okay? We just want to help our customer or our client segment their customers so that they will be able to make informed decisions. And one of the challenges that they are experiencing 25% year-over-year churn. Let us determine the churn rate by premium status, okay? So we will say select is premium. So we are basically referring to the is premium column, okay? So count all and represent it as total. So we want it as total instead of count, okay? So say sum. Sum is an aggregation function that basically sums everything within a column or basically adds everything within a column. So we are going to use our case when. So when our churned column is 1, so we'll say then 1, else 0, end, and close parentheses. Refer to this as churned. Okay, then round, sum, case when, churned, then 1, else 0, and so that is, we entered 2 columns. Then I want this to be decimal. We say divide by the count of everything within that column. So we are multiplying by 100 and presenting in 2 decimal places. And we will refer to this column as churn rate, or the alias as churn rate. So all this will be from our customers table. And we are going to be grouping by the is premium, right? Okay. Then we close our query. So let us execute this query and explain it, okay? So highlight and we execute. Okay, so our query was executed successfully. Okay, so with this data output now, I will easily explain it visually for you to see what I mean. So this select is premium here gives us 2 groups. That is based on what we have in our original data under the is premium column, right? The 2 groups are the true and the false. That is those who are premium customers and those who are not, okay? Then the counts as total here counts all customers, right? You can see this column here, count all customers within the is premium column, okay? Like I said, the as here is an alias, right? The as gives us the opportunity to give our columns alias names or our tables alias names, okay? So now this is the alias. Instead of having count as we had previously, we had it as total so that it basically presents the total false and the total true. That is the total premium customers and the total regular customer. So now shown here is a column in our original data set. If we basically execute these to see the first 10 rows of our original table, you'll see that churned is actually one of the columns in our original data set. And the content, you can see that the data type is Boolean, okay? So let's go back to this, okay? Now, we said some case when churned, then 1, that is, we are saying that we want to add 1 for each customer who left and 0 otherwise. So this gives us a total of those who left and those who stayed. And you can see that we gave it an alias and say churned, right? And basically, it helped us because remember we group by is premium here. It helped us to group by. Now we can easily say that from our premium customers, 6 have exited. From our regular customers, 13 have exited. So this churn rate here right now, this churn rate right now was calculated here where we used the round to round our sum here to 2 decimal places. It's a churn rate, so we multiply by 100, okay, to give us this rate. This is like saying 13 divided by 85 times 100 and 6 divided by 15 times 100. So this gives us the rate, right? We can say the churn rate in our premium customers is 40%, while the churn rate in our regular customer is 15.29%. So to the next step, let us create a temporary table with tiers, okay? Basically, segmenting our customers based on total revenue. Let us begin. So we say we want to create a temporary table with tiers. Okay? Okay. So let's begin by, we'll say create temporary table, create temporary table, and we want to call our temporary table customer tiers. All right. Okay. We say as, say select. Now, we, instead of typing, can easily just go and copy these. Okay. So we can copy these. We don't want all of them. Okay, we can copy this. All right. Let's paste it here. Okay. But since they are from an original table, we can take the data types off. Okay. So we want total revenue as well. We can take these off. Okay. We want churned as well. Engagement scores follows. Take these out. I just didn't want to keep typing this. So take these out as well. So monthly transactions, balance trend score, and this out from account type. Okay. We could just continue our query with the previous table, but I just want to show us a little bit difference. That is, we are just creating a temporary table, a table outside our original table. Okay. All right. So let's go on now with our query. So we'll say case when, since we are breaking the customer into different ties, so we are going to be using, at least we have 3 tiers, right? So we will go on to say when. So we are using total revenue, isn't it? Okay, so let's copy total revenue from here instead of typing it, but you could type it. So say when total revenue is greater than or equal, let's say 10,000, right? Let's see what we have in total revenue, basically. Let's see what we have there so that we segment properly. Okay, so this will work. So say 10,000, then high. So we use single quotes to reference text here or to refer to text here. So the next now will be when the same total revenue is greater than or equal to 5,000, then we will say it is medium. We will now use else, okay, and say low. So what this means is that when total revenue is greater than or whether it's equal to 10,000, it will return high. When the same total revenue column is greater than or equal to 5,000, it will be medium. If it's less than 5,000, it will be low. Okay. We want to end this column as profitability tier. Okay. We want to end as profitability tier. Okay. And we basically are creating this temporary table from our original customers table. Okay. So let us execute this and see what it does. So let us execute. We have successfully created that temporary table. So to see temporary table, to select all. Okay, from, now is no longer our customer table anymore, but from our new temporary table, which is what? Which is customer tiers, right? Okay. So say from customer tiers. Okay, let's see if we got that right. Customer tiers, yes. So this, we can use this to basically look at everything. Okay, so let's highlight and execute. So this is everything, right? All our rows, or you can decide to limit it to the first 5 rows. So let us execute this. You see the first 5 rows. So basically what is important here is that you have been able to enter a column called profitability tiers, right? This is the column. And you can see based on our segments, okay? We segmented using total revenue. Those with high will have in total revenue higher than 10,000 as what you can see here, okay? All right, so let's go to the next session where we will be identifying risk profiles using multifactor conditions, okay? So let's go ahead and write that statement. So say identify risk profiles using multi-factor conditions. We want certain columns from our temporary table, okay? We just want to select important columns for our risk profile determination, okay? Okay, so we'll start from select, and the columns include customer ID, there is premium column, churned column, total revenue, engagement score, balance trend score, monthly transactions. Let us begin to use the multi-factor conditions now, and we'll be determining that using the case. Okay, so we'll say case. Like I told us, instead of having case when we have several cases or several whens, basically, we will go ahead and say when for the first case, that is case when, churned, and engagement score, say less than 50, say and balance trend, that is our column balance trend score, this column, less than 0, then that will be high risk. So basically, this time we're writing query for moderate risk, right? So say when churned and open parenthesis engagement score greater than or equals 50 and engagement score less than 70, or balance trend score less than 0, say then moderate risk. So let us go ahead and create a query that watches for our active users, but basically have a sign of risk. Okay, so say when not churned. Okay, so when churn is false, basically, this is what it means. And open parenthesis, you can hit enter, tap to continue. Engagement score. Remember, these are columns in our table, right? Engagement score, you can see engagement score here, okay? Less than 70, or enter. Balance trend score less than 0. So we are using this because if you look at engagement score, within engagement score, we have a scale, right? And you can see this scale. You can see some we have at 8, 64, 89, 60, and so on. But when you come to balance trend score, you see we have negatives, right? And if you look at the entire table, we have some at 0, okay? So we'll say all. Then monthly transaction as the number of monthly transactions. Okay. Let's say less than 3. So we have monthly transactions, so you can see the values we have within that column. Okay. Let's say then watch. Okay. But now that we have talked about all of these conditions, it is only great to end it with the stable customers. Okay. So if customers are not within any of these conditions, we will be calling them stable customers. So let us go and say else, stable, okay? So we want to end this as, so say end, as remember I will say as gives us room for aliases, right? As risk flag. Now, the closing. This is from where? Our customer tier, right? The temporary table we added earlier, okay? So say from customer tier, sorry, underscore tier, okay? Where is used to refer to a condition. I will say where is premium column equals true, okay? We close that and we highlight to execute. Okay, let's execute that. So we have an error in line 12 and you can see the pointer here. So don't be worried if you have an error, you know you are typing this in. So don't panic. Just basically look at your errors or your error messages and see what you can do. In this case, there was space between engagement and score. So it's a wrong reference because we do not have such column. And our intention was to point to this engagement score. So let us close that. Okay. And then highlight to execute that query again. All right, let's correct this as well. Okay. So let's execute this and see. Okay, now, so we have this error in line 13, and if we look at it here, we opened this parenthesis, and so then close this parenthesis. So this closes this. However, I see that this is closed. We don't have the one to, that is the open parenthesis because we're supposed to put this in parentheses. So let us execute that now, and I believe we'll be fine. Now we have another error. Now you can see the from customer tier does not exist because our temporary table we inserted was customer tiers, right? So the S is missing, so let us add that and then execute again. All right, so it flagged balance trend score as a column not recognized. It doesn't recognize that column because it's a column balance trend score does not exist. You know that we are referencing our temporary table, okay? So to see what is going on, whether we had made a mistake in the spelling of the column name, let us either do one of two things. We can either look at the entire new customer tiers table that or the first 5 rows of the customer tier table or we go to the query we wrote initially to create that temporary table. So let's compare that column name. Okay, it was balance trend score. Okay, I think we can recognize the issue. We wrote balanced there, right? So I wrote balanced. So D made PostgreSQL recognize it as a different column and not our balance trend score column. So, okay, so be careful. So we'll replace it with that correct column name. Okay. And when we look around, you see that the balance trend score here and here are correct as well. Okay, they are correct. So the introduction of D was an error. Okay, so let us execute this now. Okay, now we have successfully executed our risk profile query. So now you can see the risk flag column, isn't it? The customers to watch, those that are categorized under moderate risk and those categorized under high risk. Okay, so now our clients, the reputable bank, can look at their customers and identify and develop strategies to solve their churn problem. Okay, so let's continue with summarizing pattern using group by. Okay, the goal here is simple. We want to show profit category for each customer group. Okay, remember when we created this, let's look at this, okay, so that you understand what I'm talking about. Where we had profitability tier, high, medium, and low, okay? We got that previously when we created a temporary table with tiers. Remember that? Okay. So there's something I'd like to point out. With each of these outputs, right, you can easily save result to file. If you click to save results to file, you can save it. All right. So that means it is possible that you save each of your outputs and basically write your interpretation of that output. Okay. That will be recommended as part of your deliverables as well. Okay. So let us summarize patterns now using group by. Okay. So we'll start by using the select statement. Okay, we'll hit enter and tab. So let's say profitability tiers. We want to count all as total customer. We want to round the average. So AVG stands for average. Okay, we want to round the average engagement score. Remember, engagement score is one of our columns in our temporary table. You can see it here, engagement score. Okay, we want to round the average of our engagement score. And so we want it to 2 decimal places. And we are going to have an alias. So we are going to represent it as, we say as average engagement. So let's just say AVG engagement. So let's sum and use case when. That is, let's sum in the case when churn, which is a column for indicating if churn exists between or in customers, or if customers have left the company. So let us sum using the case when churn, then 1, else 0. So when there's churn, it sums 1, that is, it keeps adding 1. Where there's no churn, 0. and we want to represent this as total churn. So let us round the average of monthly transactions. That is, monthly transactions is our column, right? You can see it's a monthly transactions that records the number of monthly transactions that was carried out. And we are going to be rounding that to decimal point or places. And we will be presenting that as average transactions. So this will be applied from customer tiers. That is the customer tiers table. Then now to the group by, okay? So we want to group by, we'll be grouping by profitability tiers, right? So let's group by profitability tiers, okay? Then we'll order by, let's use a case, profitability tiers. So this will help us now ensure logical ordering. So we will now say when open single quote, when high, that is when high, it should be, say, 1. When high, then 1. When medium, then 2. When low, then 3. So we will now end this case and close our query. So let's highlight and execute this, and we'll see our output, okay? Let's execute that. Okay, so we have an error here. All right, so let's see why we had that error. We did not use comma where necessary. Okay, so let's execute again. So we have a syntax error here. Okay, let's look at why that happened. Okay, where we have some case when churned, then 1 else 0. Okay, we did not end this. Okay, so we'll say end. All right, so let us execute and let's see. Okay, so we have an issue here, profitability tiers. What it's pointing to is that these profitability tiers does not exist. But what is the spelling of our profitability tiers? Let's see. Okay, so we don't have S, okay? So let's go ahead and take off all the S, okay? Because we don't have profitability tiers, but profitability tier, okay? So that is what this error means. We don't have a column as profitability tiers. That is because we did not create any column called profitability tiers for profitability tier, okay? So let's execute that. All right, now we have successfully executed this. We have our profitability tier. We have total customer, average engagement, total churn, and average transactions. And you can see that this column, except profitability tier, total customer, average engagement, total churn, and average transactions are all aliases. And you can see them here. Count as total customers. So we counted these right? Let's see the total customer that is in the high profitability tier, or let's see the total customers that are in the high profitability tier. Those are in the medium and those are in the low. So what are their average transactions or average engagement? So we calculated their average engagement here, okay? And we use round here to just round this to two decimal places. And you can see we have that, okay? So here, we also looked at total churn here. The thing here is that, remember our churn, right? The churn column that we use from our profitability tier or from our customer tier table rather, was Boolean, that is true or false, isn't it? So, but we needed to determine those that were leaving, that is the true. So we use case when churned, then one, okay, to represent that. So it's going to count that. So from here, we can know that 8 of our highly profitable customers or our clients' highly profitable customers are leaving, 3 on the medium and 8 on the low, right? That is what this does. So here also, we want to determine average transactions. Let's see the average transactions between these groups, right? So that is what we have done here, okay? Remember, the from is necessary because we had to point to the table we are referencing from which we will create this, okay? The group by is what made this possible. This is what made this possible, right? We group by the content of the profitability tier column, right? Which had basically 3 in summary, high, medium, low. The order by here helped us to order them accordingly, because without it, we will just have had, say, maybe low starting, then medium, high, just in any order. So we had to order them this way, okay? So that we'll have the sequence, 1 for high, 2, medium, and 3, low, okay? So now with this explanation, I will expect you to either screenshot this and give the appropriate explanation to this, and then give a suggestion to our client on what steps to take based on this, okay? Remember, I showed you that you can save result to file here, and then you can rename it. Then click on save. It will save to your computer. Then you can open it because it saves as a Microsoft Excel, separated value file, okay? All right. So let us go to the next step and see the output we get. Let's rank our top 15 customers, okay? So to rank our top 15 customers, we'll be using the rank function. So we will say with ranked customers as, let's open the parentheses, hit enter. So we'll say select all, comma, hit enter, rank, open parentheses, that is open and close parentheses, over, open parentheses. So let's say order by. We are going to be ordering by total revenue. In descending order, okay? So we will call this revenue rank. So we are doing this from our customer tier table. Okay, so let us close the parentheses and we'll say select all from ranked customers, right? From ranked customers, where revenue rank. So less than or equal, select, round, open parentheses, 0.15, right? 15% we said, so we use 0.15 times count. Okay, we'll be counting all, right? Let's delete one of these parentheses. So we'll have from our customer tier table. Okay, close parenthesis. Now it's complete and close our query. So let us execute this. So see the relation customer tier does not exist. So let's take a look and see. Okay, customer tiers. Okay, so you see it's quite easy to correct the issues. So just know that getting errors is not wrong. You might get errors, but just take your time, look at why you have the errors, where you have them, and how you can solve them, okay? Let's execute. All right, now we've got it right. Okay, if you look at this now, we just have 15 customers, and we don't have our customer ID ordered, right? And we can see that they are all premium customers. Then let's go to, we ranked these as presented these as ranked customers. So this output is ranked customers. We are going to rank using total revenue, right? You can see our total revenue. Our total revenue here represents the top 15 total revenues, okay, of every customer. Then we ranked over and ordered by total revenue in descending order, and that's why you can see our total revenue here in descending order. Then we presented that rank, the rank column, right, as revenue rank. Okay, so we added one column to basically rank this for us, and that column will be here. So you see, we ranked in descending order. Congratulations, we have come to the end of this class. Okay, so with these, you can see that we're able to segment, group, right, by various conditions, identified patterns and summarized by patterns. So it will be easy for us to give feedback to our clients. Okay, so this is not all the SQL we'll be looking at. In week 5, we are still going to be doing SQL. Week 6 as well. In week 7, we'll be going into Power BI. Week 8 as well. Then in week 9, we will be integrating SQL with Power BI. Okay, so I just want you to take it gradually, soak this in, let it make sense to you. Basically, if you have any issues, let us work together. Okay, so do have a wonderful day ahead.